Leonard says, hey, brother, I found an expired domain and has good trust flow and backlink profile, but the only issue is there's no Wayback Machine snapshots. What do you usually do in this situation? Well, if you can't find any history of it online, then I would say it's probably okay to use. If I can't find any snapshots in the Wayback Machine, or if they're showing like a blank page, or if they, something like that, then as long as I don't see any history of where the page was, indexed that had something that was non-relevant, then I'll still use it, because it just means the domain had probably been purchased. It might have been used for something, but it never got indexed or something, but links were still built to it for some reason. As long as they're relevant, it shouldn't be a problem. What I don't like is if you're looking at the Wayback Machine and you look at snapshots that like where they're blank, 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 but then when it finally get to a point where there is an actual web page that was cached and it was something non-relevant. That's what I always concern yourself about, because what I'm concerned about is what was the last known history of that domain to Google and Google's cache. So another example, another way to put this would be like if I'm looking at a domain that has a really good backlink profile that are relevant to, let's just say plumbing, for example. Let's just say I needed a domain for a plumber, and I found one and it had backlink profile in the business, construction, and maintenance topical category, or topical trust flow category, which is generally going to be relevant to certainly a plumber and many various other home service contractors. And I looked at the backlink profile and they were relevant. And I looked at the Wayback Machine and I could see that it 2 years ago, 3 years, let's say 3 years ago, it was a plumbing site. But then apparently it expired at some point, and some SEO, some spammer picked it up and they used it for an affiliate site. And next thing you know, there's a handful of backlinks, maybe not many, but maybe a handful of backlinks that are pointing to it that say, buy Nike shoes online or something like that. Something that you can usually identify in the anchor text cloud when you're analyzing the potential domain. If that's one of the first things I do, by the way, when I'm analyzing a potential domain, I look at the backlink profile, or the summary and majestic of the domain. So what are the overall topical trust flow categories to the root domain? Based upon looking at the root domain and majestic. And then the next thing I do is click on the anchor text option, which takes you to like an anchor text cloud. And look at the anchor text cloud. The bigger it is, that means the more that anchor text was used. So if you see some non-relevant anchor text, and you're oftentimes going to see some that's non-relevant, but if you see a significant amount of non-relevant anchor text, it means it's likely been spammed at some point. Then when you go to the Wayback Machine, you can confirm that by looking at it and seeing, okay, 3 years ago it was a plumbing site, and then it went dark for 6 months, and then it was all of a sudden now there's some new cached pages, and it was used for an affiliate site or something completely unrelated, and then it went expired again. I wouldn't recommend using it at that point, because the last history of that domain was not relevant. Although it might still have backlinks pointing to it that would be relevant. I've not really tested with repurposing domains that have a history of being spammed. To see if we can revive them and make them valuable back into the original topical category of which they have backlinks for. That may work. I've just not actually tested with that, so I don't want to advise you to do that. So the point that I'm trying to make is, as long as there's no snapshots showing that it was used for a non-relevant purpose, then I would go ahead and use it. If it's all blank or there's no snapshots at all, then I would, probably go ahead and use it. But then also, likewise, guys, if you find a domain that had been spammed 5 years ago, or 2 years, even 2 years ago, whatever, but then it was picked up and used for something relevant and it has relevant links pointing to it, in my opinion, that's still okay to use, because the last history of that domain when it was published was relevant, if that's clear. So something that was spammed many years ago, but then had been turned into a relevant site, that can be used. But something that was relevant and then spammed and then expired again, do not use. That's kind of the criteria my team adheres to. All right, hopefully that's clear.